Okay, my dear, in today's lecture, we are going to discuss the cost volume profit analysis, the most important chapter. We mostly got some two different or maybe three question in the performance management exam. Again, I'm not focusing too much on the theory. I'm going to take the help from some of the exercise to make it more easy and more understandable. The cost volume profit analysis, we call it the break-even analysis also. We use the marginal costing approach here. When I say that the marginal costing approach, by this I mean sale price minus variable cost. Okay, and this the cost volume profit analysis actually help us to examine the relationship between the level of activities and cost and revenue. So we are going to test this relationship that if I'm producing more units, how much it is going to cost me and it's how much it is going to profit me. We will even also learn that how much number of units should I produce to get the break-even point where my profit and loss is equal to zero. And even this chapter will help us that if I have some desired or the required profit, let's suppose my target is to achieve the 40,000 profit. So then how much units should I produce? This chapter is going to help us. We need to understand some of the concepts and some of the formula to understand the application of this chapter. The first one is the break-even point. Break-even point is going to help us to find out that how much units should I produce where my profit and loss is equal to zero. Then, my dear, in this chapter we are going to learn that if I have some required profit or desired profit, then how to determine the number of units which should I produce to get the desired profit. Okay, so this is the formula for the break-even point, and the second one is the formula to achieve the required profit. And we are going to use this into into this video by doing some exercise. Okay, safety margin. Safety margin it's actually help us that, for example, if my budgeted sales volume is, let's suppose, I'm expecting that I can sold out the 15,000 units in this year. Now the safety margin will help me that if I do not achieve this 15,000 unit, which is expected, the budgeted, up to what extent I have the margin. If I don't achieve the 15,000, up to what extent I have the margin that if I can achieve in that particular margin to protect myself from the loss. Let's suppose my safety margin is, let's suppose, to make it easy, let's suppose 50%. Now my expected sales are, let's suppose, 15,000. 50% of 15,000 is 7,500. Now the safety margin will let me know that if my targeted sales decrease by 50%, like let's suppose I sold out only 7,500 units, I will be on the break even point. If I achieve sell less than the 15%, let's suppose I sold out only 6,000 units, then I will be in loss. So it is going to show me that bracket, in which bracket I can save myself from the loss. Then, my dear, we need to know the contribution sale ratio. It will help us that if I'm going to sell one product on dollar one, how much it is going to benefit me in terms of the contribution. And when I say contribution, I mean that sale price minus variable cost only. Okay. Then we will come. Okay. Now this is the break-even point in terms of the sales. We have in A, when I was explaining it in this A, this is the actually break-even point in terms of the units. That how much units should I produce where my profit will be equal to zero. While break-even point in terms of the sales means that how much sales in terms of the amount I should do where I can reach to the my break-even point. Because in break-even point, total sales should be equal to total cost. The last one is, my dear, if I have some desired sales volume, Then how much number of units should I produce to get this desired sales value? So let's see it, all of this A, B, C, D, E, and F. Let's see, let's check the application by taking help from the one of the exercise. For example, have a data, there is a product, its selling price is 25, its variable cost is 20, and the fixed cost is 50,000. Let's suppose I'm going to find out the break even point. The sale price is 25. This is the data given to me. Variable cost per unit is, let's suppose it's given 20. Okay, this is also the sale price per unit. Okay, then I have the fixed cost. Fixed cost is 50,000. Let me cross check it. Yes, sale price is 25, variable cost is 20, fixed cost is 50,000. So the first requirement is that to calculate the break-even point or the number of units which I should sold out where I can reach to the break-even point where my profit or loss is zero. The second requirement is that I have some desired profit which is 40,000. How can I achieve this 40,000 desired profit? Okay, let's do it one by one. Let's do the first one. Let me calculate the break-even point. Break-even point in units. You can see the formula. The formula was fixed cost divided by contribution per unit. Let's see. So fixed cost is given. It is 50,000. This is fixed cost. Contribution per unit. The formula for contribution per unit is sale price per unit minus the variable cost per unit. So this is my contribution per unit, and this is the fixed cost. Now I can put the value into the break-even point. 50,000 divided by contribution, which is 10,000. Okay. So this is the my first requirement, that this is the first requirement to calculate the number of units where my profit is equal to zero. It's good even if you can check it here. Look, for example, if I'm producing, okay, now one thing more, that if you are, my dear, suppose producing less than 10,000 units, you will be in loss. If you are producing 10,000 units, you will be neither in loss and neither in profit. This is your break even point. But if you are producing or selling out more than 10,000 units, then you will be in profit. Let's check it. For example, if I'm producing 0 units, what is the sale price? The sale price is 25. So on 0 units, my total sales will be, of course, 0. If I'm producing 0 units, my variable cost depend on the number of units I produced. So number of units multiplied by variable cost per unit. So my total variable cost because I produced nothing. Fixed cost is 50,000, which is independent of producing any units. Either you produce 0 units or 100 units, fixed cost remain same. Okay. Now to find out the profit, what is the formula of profit? I need the total sales minus total cost. At producing 0 number of units, my total sales is 0, and total cost is fixed cost plus the variable cost, which is in this case 0. So my total cost in this case is 50,000. Now what is my profit at this point? Sales minus 50,000. So I'm in loss. Okay, you can see that I'm in loss because I'm producing less than the 10,000. Let's suppose if I'm producing the 4,000, I'm repeating the same formula here. My total sales will now be 100,000 because let me do it all together till the 10,000. Now, my dear, you can see that till the 10,000, if I'm producing less than 10,000 units, I might get in loss. My on 0 unit, my loss is 50,000. On the 4,000, my loss is 30,000, and on 8,000, my loss is minus 10,000. You can do it by yourself. Yes, on 10,000, my profit is zero. If I'm producing more than the 10,000, you can see that now it is converted into the profit. So basically, this is the my break-even point, 10,000 units. This is the requirement number one. Okay. Now let's check the second requirement. Second requirement was that I have some desired or some targeted profit. Okay. Now I have the targeted profit, which is 40,000. The question arises, how much units should I produce to reach to the 40,000 profit? So for this, if you can see that we have the formula, it's almost similar to the break-even point, but we are going to add required profit with this formula. Required profit plus fixed cost divided by the contribution per profit. When supplying this formula, it will help us that how much units should I produce to reach to the profit, which is the requirement equal to 40,000. You can see here. So this is my target, 40,000. Let's check it. Okay, so what is my desired profit? My desired profit is 40,000. What is the formula for this? Let me calculate it here. Break units to achieve the desired or the required profit. So you can see the formula fixed. We will adding the desired profit with fixed cost. The desired profit plus fixed cost and then divided by the contribution. Almost similar to the break-even point. Okay, so it shows that if I'm able to produce 18,000 units, then I can, my dear, achieve the 40,000 profit. In this case, we have already tested it on 20,000. You can see the profit is more than 50,000. If I can give some space here, let me check on 18,000. If I produce 18,000 units, what will be my profit? You can see that on 18,000, the profit is 40,000. So show us that if I'm producing the 18,000 units, I can achieve my target profit, which is 40,000. Now let's check the requirement number. Third, okay, the requirement number third is to calculate the margin of safety. For that, I should have some targeted number of units to sell. Now the company budgeted sale are 13,000 units. The company is expected that we should produce that we will be expecting that to sold out 13,000 units. Now let's calculate the safety margin. Safety margin will show me that if I do not produce 13,000 units and I produce less than 20,000 units. Now up to what extent I have the margin if I do not produce the 13,000 and my I will be not in loss. If I cross that limit, that margin, then I will be in loss. So the formula for the margin of safety is budgeted sales minus break-even point sales and then divide by the budgeted sales. Let me show you from here in the formula slide. You can see that I want to calculate it into the percentage. So budgeted sales, which is in this case 13,000, minus break-even point means the number of units where my profit and loss was zero, which is 10,000 in this case in our exercise. And then again divide by the budgeted sales means 13,000 and multiply by 100. So we will get the safety margin. Now I'm going to calculate the safety margin in units in percentage. So what is my mm, budgeted sale? Budgeted sale is 18,000. Putting value to the formula, budgeted sales 13,000 minus the break-even point, which is 10,000 units, then divide by the budgeted sales. If you want to convert into the percentage, so we need to multiply them by the 100. Okay, so the answer is 23.08%. If I round it, so I can do like this also, 23.1%. Now what does this mean? This means that my target, my budgeted sale is 13,000. My safety margin is 23.1%. Okay. Now, if my sales volume decrease by 23.1%, I will reach to the zero profit. On 13,000, I am in profit. Okay. If you can see here, if I produce more than 10,000, so 13,000 is somewhere in between. Means that on 13,000, my profit is somewhere in between from 0 to 25,000, somewhere like this. If you're interested, you can calculate it. Okay, it doesn't take too much time. Let me do it for you. If I produce 13,000 units, so my profit will be in between 0 to 25. So on 13,000, my profit is 15,000. Now, if I produce less than the 23.1% of the 23, let me calculate the 13,000 multiplied by 23.1%. So you can see it's 3,000. Now I have the margin of the 3,000 units. This is called a safety margin in units. Means that if I produce less than this 3,000, then I will be in loss. 23% of the budgeted sale is 3,000. If I produce up to this 13,000 minus 3,000, which is 10,000, you can see this is the break-even point. If suppose I sold out less than the 23.1% of the budgeted sales, let's suppose if I sold out only 9,000, the actual sales, let's suppose actual sale is 9,000. It means that if I sold less than the 23% of the 10,000, so my dear, I will be in loss. You can see here, if I produce 9,000, so I will be in loss. So actually the safety margin give us the bracket up to what extent I can be in profit still if I do not achieve my budgeted sales, or if I achieve less than my budgeted sales. Okay. Formula for the safety margin, if you know these values, then um, safety margin means that in units, that budgeted sales, minus the break even point. If you know the break even point, you can do it like this also. So safety margin is 3000. But if you don't have the data of the break even point, then my dear, you can simply do it like how? Then my dear, you need to calculate the safety. If you have the safety margin data, you can multiply simply by this one and you can get the 3000. So hopefully this is clear that now you are in the range of the 15,000 minus the 23.1% of the budgeted sales. If you if your sales volumes are less than this percent, then my dear, you are in loss. You have the margin till 23.1%. This was my requirement number C. Yes, you can see that it indicates that sales decrease by 23.1%. It will fall into a loss area. If it decrease by 23 means more than this one, so the greater safety margin is of course preferred. If you have a great like a large safety margin, you'll be the chance of loss will be of course then less. If for example my safety margin is 50%, it means that I can still have the 50% margin to save myself from the loss. Now the fourth requirement is to calculate the ratio contribution to sale ratio. The grade is preferable. Okay, let me show you the formula. Contribution sale ratio formula is contribution divided by sales per unit. Okay, you can see contribution to sale ratio. How we calculate it? Contribution divided by sales. So let's calculate it here. Contribution to sales ratio. We already have contribution. We have find it 5. And sale volume is sale price per unit is 25. Okay, so contribution is 0.2. If you want to convert into the percentage, you can simply multiply by 100, which is 20%. So your contribution to sale ratio is 20%. It means that on each unit of the sale, you are earning the 20%. Or let me show you the interpretation of this contribution to sale ratio. How you are going to interpret it? Contribution to sale ratio actually reveals the amount of contribution that is earned for every dollar one worth of sales revenue. Means that in this case, if you make a sales of $1 of unit, you are earning 20 cents. If you earn or a sale $1 means you are earning 20 cents in each $1 sale. Okay, out of 1 unit of sales, you are earning 20 cents. If you make a $2 sales, you will be earning 40 cents. Okay, which is the 20%. One thing more about the contribution to sale ratio. Look, my dear, in this case, we are doing the example of only one product. But let's suppose if we have the mostly company have more than one product. Let's suppose I have product A, product B, product C. Let's suppose we have the 4 product. Let's suppose we have 4 product. Now the question arises that which product is contributing more? If I'm selling 1 unit of A, B, C, and D, which one is going to give me a more profit? In this case, my dear, we need the contribution to sale ratio. We use it for the ranking. Okay, the high contribution to sale ratio is preferred. Okay, the contribution to sale ratio, the higher, the more it's preferable. So among these four products, we will then do the ranking. But in this example, we don't have the multiple products. That's why I'm not going into that detail. But if you have the different product, the mix of the products, then you can use the contribution to sale ratio for the ranking also. Okay, okay. The last requirement maybe in this. Okay, there are two more. The one of the requirement is that calculate the break-even point. Okay, in a, okay in the okay, calculate the break-even point. Now we are going to express it in term of the revenue, the sales. Okay, not in term of the units, but in term of the sales. It means that how much sales for how much number of units should I sell, or sorry, how much number of amounts I should receive in term of the sales, which can make my profit zero. Means that my total cost is equal to total revenue. In this case, I can show you that we are actually finding out this value. This is the total sales at which I my profit and loss is zero. Now, how to find out this value? Okay, you are interested to find out the break-even point, but in terms of the revenue, how much revenue should I receive where my profit and loss is equal to zero? Now, for this, let me delete this example of the multiple product. Now, I'm going to find out the break-even point in terms of revenue. Okay, now for this, my dear, we need the contribution to sale ratio. Let me show you the formula. Okay, for this, the formula is break-even point in sales. You need a fixed cost divided by contribution to sale ratio. Contribution to sale ratio, which is zero point 0.2 in this case, fixed cost is 50,000. If you divide it, it will give you the value where we are. It will give you the value of the sales where we are on break-even point. Fixed cost is 50,000 divided by contribution to sale ratio, which is zero point 0.2. So the answer is 2,50,000. Okay, you can see that this is actually the 2,50,000, and here also you can see that here it was not required in this case. I just do it for your understanding. But my dear, you can see that now this is the sales volume. If I achieve, I can reach to the break-even point. Okay, what is the formula again? Fixed cost divided by the contribution to sale ratio. Yes, my dear. Now, if you want to achieve the desired profit, then how much number of sales volume you should achieve? We have learned that in term of the units. In term of the units, if you remember, to achieve the 40,000 units, my desired units were to achieve the desired profit. My desired units were 18,000. If there is a question that to achieve the desired profit, how much sales volume should you go? This is the 4,50,000. Okay, let's suppose if you want to, this is the requirement to find out. Now we are going to find out the targeted sales which can give us the targeted profit. Now how to do it? For that the formula is the required profit. Again, similar to the break-even point in term of the sales. You can see, but only what we are going to add, we are going to add our desired profit. Okay. Let me check the question. This is the last requirement, I think. Yes. Now we are going to calculate sales revenue, which will help us to earn the 40,000 profit. So to achieve the desired sales, to achieve desired profit. What is the formula? The desired profit is 40,000 plus the fixed cost and then divided by the contribution to sales ratio. You can see that my to achieve the desired profit, which is 40,000, I need to receive the sales volume in term of amount, which is 4,50,000. You can see it is similar here also. So my dear, the question is almost done. Sorry. If you want to check it into the by using the graph, you can take help from the graph also. Let's suppose I'm going to draw the graph. On x-axis, I'm taking the number of units. On y-axis, I'm taking the value of total sales. Okay, you can see that this is the when I was selling out the 5,000 units, this is my sales volume. On 10,000, my sale volume, so this is the sale volume. Now let me compare this with the total cost also to find out the profit area. On x-axis, I have the number of units, and on y-axis, I have total cost. If I can change the color, this will be helpful. Let me make it a bit. Okay, now you can see that the blue line actually presents the cost. Sorry, the blue line presents the revenue, and the orange line presents the total cost. You can see this is the break-even point 10,000, where they were equal. Now before the 10,000, you can see the revenue in blue line is less than the cost, the orange line. This area is loss. If you are producing less than 10,000, you are in loss. After the 10,000, you can see the revenue, the total revenue is high than the total cost. Now, this area is actually the profit area. Now, if you are selling out more than 10,000, sorry. So if you are selling more than 10,000, your revenue is greater than the cost. You can check it through the graph also. And if you want to put the fixed cost also, let me add one more. Suppose you want to put the fixed cost also on the graph. Again, x-axis is 0. Fixed cost will remain same. Either you are producing 0 units or you are producing 10,000 units or more than 10. Oh, sorry, it's not selected. Fixed cost is not selected. It's here. Yes, now you can see that green line present a fixed cost. Okay, it remains same. This green line plus this yellow one, this shows the total cost. On 0 unit, it is also 50. You can see that we are in loss because the revenue is less than the fixed cost. Here, I at least cover the fixed cost at this point, but because of the variable cost, when I made it total, so you can see at this point the total cost is high. The fixed cost is less at this point. Now I'm slowly and gradually covering the fixed cost, but variable cost, because the total cost is equal to the fixed cost plus variable. Once I reach here, I cover all the fixed and variable cost. Now, my dear, let's come to the question which you can receive in the exam. I'm going to short this video. This video will be only limited to the one product, and if we have the mix of the product, like more than one product, I'm going to make a next video for that also. But the question you can receive in exam will be like this, maybe. Okay, this is a graphical presentation of same question. You can see 10,000. The green line shows the fixed cost. Okay, you may receive a question like this, that a company provides a single service to its customer, means the product is single. An analysis of its budget for the year end 31st December 2015 shows that in period 3, the budgeted activity was 6,570 service units. Sale value is given, which is 72. The margin of safety is given, which is 21%. The budgeted contribution to sales ratio, means the contribution to sale ratio is given, which is 35%. You need to calculate the fixed cost. Now, the problem in this question is that fixed cost is not, like, it's not, you cannot find it directly. Okay, like for example, if I want to calculate the fixed cost, if I want to calculate the fixed cost, I need the data of the break even point. I need the data of the contribution per unit, means the sales price minus variable cost. Now, the problem is that in this case, let me, if I do it like this, that the question is that I need to find out the fixed cost. This is my target. But the issue is that I don't have the data of the break even point in units. To find out the contribution per unit, I need the value of the sales minus variable cost. Okay. In this data, I have the value of the sales. If I read the question, it is the sale value is given, but variable cost is not given. Sale is 72. Now, my dear, to find out this fixed cost, we need to do some reverse engineering. We need the break even point. We need the variable cost also. So now we need to, my dear, play with this formula and extract the information of the break even point and then the variable cost. If I got this value, I can calculate the fixed cost. Because in this case, if I want to calculate the fixed cost, if I make arrangement, how can I find the fixed cost? Break even points in units multiply by the contribution per unit. But I don't have the variable costs, I cannot find the contribution per unit, and I don't have the break-even point. Now you need to do the reverse engineering and reach to this point. This is the only data which is given. Okay. Yes, from margin of the safety, I can find out the break-even point in units. Yes. What was the formula of the margin in safety? Budgeted sales minus break-even point sales divided by budgeted sales multiplied by 100. I have the value of the budgeted sales and I have the answer of the safety margin also. So from here I can extract the information of the break-even point. Look, my dear, margin safety in units. Margin safety in units means that budgeted sales minus break-even point sales divided by the budgeted sales multiplied by 100. So if I this one on the another side of the equal sign, I can write like this also. Margin safety units. If you remember, in my case, it was 3000 in the previous example. So I can find out the margin safety units. How? Budgeted units multiplied by the safety margin ratio. If you remember in previous exam, I do like this. 15,000 multiplied by 23.1%, I got the safety margin units. So this is my safety margin units. If I multiply 6.70 by 21.105. Safety margin, I told you, it is equal to budgeted units minus break-even point units. In previous example, if you remember, it was 13,000 minus 10,000. But in this case, I don't have this value. I have this value. Safety margin is 1380.69. So if I do the arrangement, okay, so I can write like this: break-even point is equal to safety margin minus budgeted units. Okay, budgeted units minus safety margin. So this is my break-even point, 5189.31. So one of the target is achieved, that is break-even point. Now I have the value of the break-even point. By taking help from the safety margin ratio, my break-even point is now 5189 point. Okay, so I got this portion. Now I need the contribution per unit. For contribution per unit, I need the sales and variable cost. So I already have the value of the sales, but I don't have the value of the variable cost. If I check it, the contribution margin is already given. What was the formula of the contribution to sale ratio? Contribution to sale ratio formula was contribution per unit divided by sales. So contribution to sale ratio is given in the question. If you can read the question, it is given 21.015, and sale price is also given. Sale price is 72. Contribution to sale ratio is 21.015%. It is given. Okay, now to find the contribution this one is not known to me. Contribution is not known to me. Yes, the sales value I have, it is 72. The contribution actually per unit is, contribution is actually sale minus variable cost per unit. Now I have the contribution ratio. I have the sales value. From here I can find out the contribution at least. Okay. So how to find it? If this is divide and it come on this side, it will be multiplied. Let me do it through the calculator. 72 multiplied by 21.015 in percentage. 21.015 divided by 100. Okay, multiplied by 72, it is 15.1308. So contribution is equal to 15.13 something. Now my dear, I can find out the variable cost because now I have the contribution, which is 15 point. I have the sale price, which is 72, and I don't have the value of the variable cost. To find out the variable cost, I can put it on the another side, which is another side of the equal, and this is equal to 72 minus 15.13, 56.87. I don't know where I make the mistake. Sorry, the contribution to sale ratio in question is 35%. Sorry. Okay, this is actually 35%. I mix it with safety margin. Sorry, this is actually 35%. So same process, but I need to do a calculation again because this is 35%. So it means that 72 multiplied by 85%, it is 25.2. Seventy-two minus 25.2. Variable cost is 46.8. Now you can see here 46.8. Now I can find out the fixed cost because now I have the value of the fixed cost, the break even point, which is this one. I have the value of the contribution per unit also, okay, which is 25.2. So the break even point, put the value into the break even point formula, fixed cost divided by contribution per unit, which in this case is 25.2. The formula for contribution is sales minus variable cost. Sale is 72 minus variable cost is 46.8. So means that 25.2 is my contribution. No matter, you can do the reshuffling. The break even point is given Fixed cost is not known to me. Divided by the contribution is 46.8. If you do the cost multiplication, you can get the value of the fixed cost, which is 5189.31 multiplied by 46.8 also is 2,42,852. This is the variable cost. Your contribution margin 25.2. Sorry. Oh, this 7 variable cost. I put the wrong value here. Variable cost is 46.8. So contribution is. I'm sorry. I'm making the mistake putting the wrong value. 72 minus, not plus, 46.8 is 25.2. So here it is 25.2 and here it is 25.2. 25.2 multiplied by the break-even point 5189.31, 1,30,000, 30,772, 770, sorry, 770.61 something. So my dear, maybe you receive a question in exam where direct value will be not given of the fixed cost. You can find out from here, but this value will be maybe not given. This information may be hidden. So you need to use the other formula, especially you will be the margin safety formula will be help you and contribution to sale ratio. So you can then find out the fixed cost or the break-even point or any other value indirectly, like by using the other formulas. Hopefully, this lecture will help you in understanding this chapter. The rest for the multiple products, inshallah, I'm then going to make another video. Yeah, another video. Sorry. Bye. Okay, the second part of this lecture or this video is now to calculate or use the CVP, the cost volume profit analysis techniques for the multiple products. Normally, the businesses do not rely on the single product. The previous examples in which we solved the question, that was regarding the one product, and now we are going to apply the same knowledge on the multiple products. So we are assuming that there is a company which is producing three different products. You can see the X, Y, and Z. The sale price of each product is given. Variable cost is given. Sale minus variable cost means the contribution per unit is given. And the budgeted sales volume, the number of units which is expected to be sold out, that is the 50,000 for X, 10,000 for Y, and 100,000 for the Z. The company is expecting fixed that there will be the fixed cost will be 4,50,000 for the coming year. No matter either you are producing one product, two product, or three different product, or either you are producing more or less in quantity of the each. So fixed cost remain fixed. It is the independent of the number of units produced or the number of products produced. Okay, the requirement is that we need to calculate the weighted average contribution to sale ratio for the products. Okay, in the previous example, my dear, we were focusing on the single product, one product. So the contribution to sale ratio for a single product was contribution per unit divided by the sales per unit. Now we are focusing on the multiple products. We cannot this now we if we are calculating the contribution to sale ratio for multiple products, so then we need to consider all the three products and according to the weight assigned to those units. Like you can see that in X number of units are sold 50,000, in Y expected number of units are supposed to be sold 10,000, and the Z is 100,000. So you can see where more units are sold out, of course, then the contribution, the weight assigned to the Z will be more because we are producing more of the Z as compared to the X and Y. So now we are going to learn how to calculate the weighted average contribution to sale ratio, not for a single product, but for the multiple. So we are going to assign them the according weights to each of the product. Weighted contribution to sales ratio, I should say the average. Let me first only calculate the weighted average contribution. The formula is actually, if you want to find out the weighted average contribution to sale ratio, for that, my dear, first we need weighted average contribution. Then in single product, you need the contribution per unit and sales per unit. But in this case, my dear, you need the weighted average contribution, and similarly, you need the weighted average sales. Okay. If you divide the weighted average contribution on the weighted average sales, then you can get the weighted average contribution to sale ratio. So let's calculate the first one, weighted average contribution. Okay, in a single product, you just minus the variable cost from the sale price, you get the value of the contribution. Now in this case, we are supposed to again do the sale price minus variable cost, which we have already calculated here. You can see that sale minus variable cost is given 11. Now the units of the each product, like the units of the X, multiply by the contribution of the X, then plus, let me copy it to save over some time, the units of the Y multiply the contribution of the Y, plus units of the Z multiply by contribution of the Z. Similarly, to find out the weighted average sales, again the units, let me copy from here, units of the X, but this time multiply by the sale price of the X. Unit of Y multiply by the sale price of the Y. Similarly, unit of Z multiply by the sale price of the Z. Okay, by this way we can calculate the weighted average contribution and then weighted average sales. By dividing it, we will get the value of the weighted average contribution to sale ratio. Let me do it in MS Excel. I have already written a data. This is the given information. Now, how to calculate the weighted average contribution? As I mentioned, that number of units multiplied by the contribution per unit of the x, and then plus number of units of the y, then the number of units of the z multiplied by the contribution of the z. By this way I will get the contribution, weighted average contribution. You can see if I put for the value in this formula, so the weighted average contribution is 900,000. Okay. Now let's calculate the weighted average sales. Contribution, number of units of the, let me do from the beginning, number of units of the x multiplied by sale price of the x plus the number of units multiplied by the sale price of the y plus again number of units of the z multiplied by the sale price of the z. But this from idea I calculate the weighted average sales. Okay. Now I have the value of the weighted average sales also. That is, I think it was 2 million. So now we can put the values into this formula to find out the weighted average contribution to sale ratio. So the average contribution is 900,000 and divided by the 2 million. The answer is 0.45. If you want to convert into a percentage, you can simply multiply this by the 100. So means that 45%. Okay. So this is actually the weighted average contribution to sale ratio. Okay, so the requirement number 1 is done. You hopefully understand the difference between single product and the, when you're doing for the multiple. In single product, you consider the single contribution per unit and divide it by the sales of that unit. But in case of the multiple product, we need to calculate the contribution, weighted average contribution, and then we need to calculate the weighted average sales. The second requirement is that calculate the break-even sales revenue required. Okay. Now, how to calculate the sales volume where my profit and loss will be equal to 0. Okay. How much of this mix product should I produce where my profit and loss is equal to 0? If you remember, the formula for this single product was for one product, formula in this case was, if you remember, the fixed cost divided by contribution to sales ratio. While in the case of the multiple product, multiple product, if you want to calculate, have the same formula, but this time contribution to sale ratio is not for the one unit, but this will be the weighted contribution to sale ratio. So this is the formula. Okay, you can put the value fixed cost is given, which is 4,50,000 divided by weighted average contribution to sale ratio, we have recently find it is 0.45. So the requirement 2 is to calculate the fixed cost. It's not given here. Let me write it here. The fixed cost is 4,50,000. So 4,50,000 divided by the contribution. It show 1 million. 1 million is actually the requirement number B, which is the break even sales revenue. Break even sale revenue means that if this company achieve this sales volume, profit and loss will be zero. If they achieve more than this revenue, then that will be in the profit. Now this is according to the weight assigned to each of the product. How? Because we have calculated the contribution to sale ratio according to the weight assigned to each of the product. Now the third requirement is that we now have the some desired profit, that is the 6,600,000. So now we need to calculate the amount of sales where we can reach to the 600,000 profit. If we make the 1 million sales, we will be on zero profit. Now how much sales I should do to reach to this profit? Again, if you remember, when we were doing the same scenario for the one product, it was like this, that the desired or the required profit plus the fixed cost, and then we divide it by the contribution to sales ratio. Okay. Now for the multiple product, again we have the same concept. The required profit plus the fixed cost, but again this time not contribution to sale ratio, but weighted average contribution to sale ratio. Okay, now you can put the values. Formula. The values are the required profit is 600,000 plus the fixed cost is given, which is 4,50,000. Once you add up both of this, then you need to divide it by the weighted average contribution to sale ratio, which in this case is 0.45. Let's do it. What is the required profit? Okay, now calculate the revenue where required profit is 600,000. How to calculate it? Required profit plus the fixed cost. If we put this into the bracket, otherwise they will do first the division. What is the weighted average cost contribution to sale ratio? That is 0.45. Okay, so this is the answer. So it is 2 triple 3 and triple 3. Now to reach to the 6 lakh profit, you need to do the more than 2 million sales. On the 1 million sales, your profit will be zero. Okay, but on the 2 million plus sales, your profit will be now 600,000. This is how we calculate the target revenue to achieve the target profit. Okay, now they were asking to calculate a multi-product profit volume chart, assuming the budget is achieved. We are assuming that all the budgeted sales are achieved. Now to calculate the multi-product profit volume chart. For this, my dear, first we need to find out the priority. What product should be on my priority? What should be my first preference? Like in this case, if you remember the previous video, I told you that the contribution to sale ratio more high, more it is preferable. The product with high contribution to sale ratio is considered the adding more profit while making a dollar one sales. So for that, my dear, let's do it step by step. First, my dear, I need to do the ranking. So let me calculate the contribution. Let me write in short. Contribution to sale ratio for the X, Y, and Z. Contribution to sale ratio of X is contribution divided by sales. It's 0.687, and for Y it is 0.2, and for Z it is 0.30. Now, my dear, if I do the ranking, this will be my first priority because this the X contribution to sale ratio is high. Then the Z will be my second priority, and Y will be my third priority because Y contribution to sale ratio is lowest among these three. Now, on this basis, my dear, our first focus will be to sell out the X. We had high contribution to sale ratio, and then the Y, and then the Z. Now, in the question, it is given that they were assuming that all of the budgeted sales are achieved. Okay. Now let's calculate the. Okay. You can see here. Okay. Now for that, my dear, you need to calculate the first. This is a fixed cost. Okay. If I sold out not a single unit, my cumulative revenue will be of course 0, and I will be in loss, which is 4,50,000. Let me do it here. My fixed cost is 4,50,000. Y and Z. At this stage, my revenue is 0. So my profit at this stage is I'm in loss. So revenue minus no matter my first priority is X, second is Z, and third is Y. If I sold out all of the X units, okay, I can do like this, that sale price multiplied by the 50,000, and then I minus the again 50,000 with variable cost. So it's better to do it directly. Sale minus variable cost is equal to contribution per unit. So if I sold out the 50,000 units of the If I sold out 50,000 units of the Y and contribution per unit is 11, okay, how much contribution I will receive? I will receive the contribution multiplied by 11. So this is the contribution, my dear, 5,50,000. At this stage, my profit will be 5,50,000. If I want to find out the cumulative, so deduct from the fixed cost. Okay, so 5,50,000 minus from the 4,50,000. If I sold out all of the 50,000 units of the X, my profit will be now 100,000. Okay. Now, if I sold out the 50,000 of X plus now the Z, how many units of the Z there are? 100,000. Multiply by what is the contribution unit of Z? It is 3. Okay, now I have sold out 50,000 of the X and 100,000 of the Z also. So if I only calculate for the Z, multiply by 3. So the total profit will be now contribution of the X, contribution of the Y, and again minus fixed cost. Now this is, my dear, now the cumulative profit, 400,000. I got 100,000 from here and 300,000 from the Z also. Contribution of the Y, how many number of units of the Y? There are 10,000 units. And the contribution per unit is 5. What happened? 10,000 multiplied by 5. So this is the contribution of the Y, sorry. Now the cumulative profit at this particular point, I have contribution of the X, Y, and Z, and then, my dear, minus the fixed cost. In this slide, you can see that I have calculated it step by step. You can see the cumulative profit while selling out all the 3 units are 4,50,000. Okay. It shows the revenue, the cumulative revenue. I didn't calculate the revenue because I directly calculate the profit of the cumulative product. Okay. Now, my dear, we need to show it into the graph. Okay, on the x-axis, on the y-axis, you can see that I am now mixing the 3 products, the X, Y, and Z. This is the graph of the first product X. You can see that the profit of the X is increasing at increasing rate because the contribution to sale ratio of the X was high. Then, my dear, when we start selling out the Z is all in Z also. If you are selling out more units, the profit is increasing. But here you can see that comparatively, profit is increasing at moderating rate, not with a very high speed, because the contribution to sale ratio of the Z was a little bit less than the X. My dear, the third one, Y. You can see in Y, yes, also profit is increasing, but now you can see that the profit is increasing at low rate, as compared to the other two. So this is a graphical presentation. It Now this suggests us that although in this case we have sold out all of the budgeted number of units sold, but this suggests that if you are going to sold out more product of the X, your profit will be increasing with the high rate. Okay, this is the third requirement to calculate the third requirement was to draw a multi-product volume profit volume chart assuming the budget is achieved. Okay, hopefully this video will help you in understanding both the cases if you are selling out the multiple products and if you are selling out the one product. If you have any question, you can ask the question into the comments. Thank you. Goodbye.